Today we ask the age-old question.
Will it fix the Portland Trailblazers?
Let's talk about that.
Hello and welcome to the Deep 2 NBA podcast. I am your host, Lucas Petrides. Joining me as always is the one and only Alessio Conte. Mr. Conte, man, how are we?
Good, Lucas. How are you?
Good, thanks. Anyone got anything to plug?
Funny you mention that.
No one else is joining you, Lucas.
No one else is joining me. Oh, plus Marco.
Yeah, I'm not gonna introduce myself without an introduction. Back by unpopular demand, it's me, Marco.
And Dante and Sean.
Host extraordinaire. Well, funny that you mentioned, does anyone have anything to plug? Because we do have something to plug. So up on the site, thedeep2.com, can't believe it's that easy. Earlier this week was...
Wait, you mean it's that easy?
It's that easy. You won't believe it's not butter. Was a piece by Aless, friend of the pod, Deep2 contributor, called "The NBA Has a Women Problem." And in it, Aless deep dives into the lip service that the NBA is basically paying by remaining committed to, superficially remaining committed to gender equality, and then allowing men like Chauncey Billups and Jason Kidd to, take over and lead their franchises. And kind of what it really means about the NBA's path forward and what they can do to be better, because I think that we would all agree that allowing convicted domestic abusers to be the head coaches of NBA teams is probably a bad move. So I'm going to throw it over to you, Aless, if you want to just chat a little bit about the process and the piece.
So I love how Dante said deep dive, when honestly, in hindsight, it was probably the shallowest dive I could have possibly done. The information was so readily available regarding how rampant these issues are in the NBA / the world of sports. I just still find myself gobsmacked every time I think about the fact that what Chauncey Billups allegedly did in 1997 got him a civil... They settled in civil court, and if he had have done it in 2021, I would be shocked if he wasn't in prison, simply. So the fact that these guys are getting hired and propped up, I've had a couple of interesting fact checkers through Instagram comments and Facebook DMs, all three of which were incorrect. But yeah, I mean, the article I would say is the most interesting one I've written, and it's not exactly super basketball orientated, but it definitely says a lot about the direction that the NBA, the difference between the direction NBA says it's going and the way that it's actually going.
Yeah, it was a really great piece, Aless. It was very well considered. And I'm glad you wrote it and published it now as well. I feel like these issues can sort of have like a very short half-life, in the run up to hiring guys like Chauncey and Jason Kidd, that's when all the discussion about it happens. And then as soon as they're hired, it's over. So I think we sort of, I guess, as very, very small parts of the basketball media, owe it to ourselves and our listeners to keep talking about it. When we talk about Chauncey Billups and Jason Kidd this season, let's not forget these allegations against them. I mean, not even allegations against Jason Kidd, are they? And I guess not forgive them for what they do. The other thing that I sort of thought, and I'm not going to bag out you guys on your own podcast, so I'm just going to speak for us over at the JVG NBA Tribute Show, but we've never had a female guest. And I think I guess if we're going to sort of advocate for this stuff, then actual female representation in things like sports media is just as important. I think the more involvement, the more representation you get, the more you sort of, the less likely it is that hirings like this are going to happen and with the media turning the other cheek. So yeah, I think that's something as we continue into this NBA season that we should endeavor to do over on our podcast.
Yeah, I think that's an absolutely spot on point, because I'm thinking about it now, Sean. I think we've had one female guest, and it was Gina Mizell, who was late of The Athletic at the time, and she was unbelievable. But I mean, I'm thinking about it now, there's plenty of female representation in NBA media, but a lot of it comes in sideline reporting and presentation and hosting, where it's basically like a support role and a spearhead for allowing the like the experts, like the male experts to come in and like offer their opinion. And then you look at like, let's talk about like beat writers. Let's talk about like writers for The Athletic who are covering sports like basketball. Let's talk about writers for The Ringer, like ESPN. Like that tends to be, the majority of the content that's consumed from these content machines tends to be from men. So I think whilst, you look at like the raw numbers of women, and, we could talk about like so many media personalities who are women that we know from the NBA, but they do tend to kind of have like a very limited scope for what they're there for. And I think that, obviously, Marco, you mentioned that we are like possibly the smallest contingent of the NBA media, but like, if it's something that, we can do, which it definitely is, you would hope that there could be a push at the higher levels as well, for women to kind of be in more diverse roles and to have like a larger role in the content landscape than they currently do.
Well, that is as good a segue as ever. Chauncey Billups' current team, the Portland Trailblazers.
Yeah, let's go to Chauncey.
Let's go to the C meeting.
All right, so starting now, I'll start to put in some sound effects. Believe it or not, I'm not going to be putting some dings and laughing tracks behind those last 5 minutes. But Chauncey Billups' current team is the Portland Trailblazers, and they have been in an interesting situation, a situation that is completely different to what seems like a decade of Portland basketball, which is extremely consistent, make the playoffs. You've got Dame, you've got CJ, etc. And all of a sudden it's like, oh, maybe Dame's going to request a trade and this and that. So we thought we would come in here, and as we said at the top of the podcast, we're going to try and fix the Portland Trailblazers. We each have brought at least one trade. I mean, I thought it was one trade, but it seems like I'm the only person with one trade. But we've each brought one trade to the table. None of us know what the other people have. I'm guessing there's going to be a little bit of clashing, which will be fine. And let's just see maybe we'll do a little thing at the end where we say whose trade is probably going to help the Portland Trailblazers and make the most sense at the end of the day. And who wants to start it off?
I'll start it off. Mine's an absolute clusterfuck. It is full on. I'll send it to the chat now so everyone can have a read of it. So I speak with a few casual fans at work, and they're often asking about the Ben Simmons situation and etc. And whether he's going to the Timberwolves or the Blazers, and if the Timberwolves are coming through, they need a third team to like facilitate it. So I thought, why not make those three teams the three teams of the trade? So the Timberwolves are hypothetically giving up Jaden McDaniels, a first, Malik Beasley, and I think I threw another first in there via the. I don't know. I can't remember. I think there were two.
There's a photo in the chat if that helps.
The Sixers. No, because like it says 76ers, but I think it was via. But it changes the logo.
Yeah.
So I think the Timberwolves are doing two firsts.
Yeah.
The 76ers give up Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and they get Lillard and Covington from the Blazers. So at the end of the day, the Blazers end up with Harris, Maxey as Lillard's replacement, McDaniels as a young up-and-coming forward, a first-round pick. I think that was supposed to be 2 first-round picks. I stuffed up there. The 76ers get Lillard, Covington as Harris's replacement, Malik Beasley as added depth, and then the Timberwolves end up with Simmons, who they've been chasing the whole time. Obviously, the trade needs workshopping regarding picks sending in different directions, but the general gist was, how do we effectively get the players to the teams they want to go to?
Yeah, I'll start, and I'll say that I think the Sixers are getting away with highway robbery here.
I think Daryl Morey must have like held someone at gunpoint to get this trade.
I like a hard ditto on that.
I think getting Damian Lillard is like, yes, push all your chips forward to get Damian Lillard, but to be able to get Malik Beasley and Robert Covington and get off of Tobias Harris's contract, which I think's rather negative. You guys can say what you will there. But I mean, I guess they give up 2 picks there, or just the 1 pick, and they also give up Tyrese Maxey, which, like, yes, Tyrese Maxey looked incredible in summer league, but like Lucas would probably look all right in summer league. So I think like if there is going to be a Dame trade, it's going to be very much like let's throw in everything to get Damian Lillard, not so much Robert Covington as well. But then again, Daryl Morey is just like he's cooking with a whole different set of ingredients. So I wouldn't be surprised if something like this does happen, where it's like, shit, Daryl Morey with his back against the wall, sexy little hand next to his head, how does he still come away with this, getting everything?
Yeah, I think I valued Tobias Harris a lot more until what you just said, Sean. Definitely a big steal getting off his contract. But yeah, I agree. I think any Dame trade is just going to have to be like completely good assets going from the Sixers to Portland. I mean, Ben Simmons might be the one exception there, but I mean, if you're talking about getting off Tobias Harris money and getting off Ben Simmons money, like those are completely different propositions. Ben Simmons still has the opportunity to be just this elite player if he, checks his head and changes his play style a bit. Whereas, yeah, like you said, Tobias Harris is just never going to be at that tier. So yeah, I like the movement going on here, Alessio, but I think the Blazers are giving up too much and not getting enough somehow.
Yeah. I think the issue was like, I don't think it works between the three teams, but this was the only way that I foresaw it even remotely coming about. Like, I think the Sixers and Wolves might have to give more picks. I don't know I don't think the Sixers were supposed to end up with a pick here. I've got that in the screenshot. I think that was supposed to end up going to the Blazers, but tough situation to like maneuver. And I think in reality, when the 3-team deal comes about, either the Blazers or the Wolves are missing from that deal, and it's just a facilitator pushing through sort of a contract,
like a Spurs or an OKC, just copying something so it could happen.
Just push through a contract, take a pick, and the big movers get moved between the two main teams.
A bit like my trade, which is coming up soon.
I'm not trying to be like Kevin O'Connor when he put Killian Hayes up top his draft board for last year's draft. But I actually don't really like this for the Timberwolves. But I'm very high on Malik Beasley and Jaden McDaniels, and I have had a change of heart with Ben Simmons over the last week.
Dude, me too.
If anyone missed episode 58 of the JVG NBA tribute show, I said I was like, man, you're fucking wide open. You're a grown man. You're in the highest league in the world. You get paid 25 mil a year. Just make it. Just make it.
Just take it.
Just take it. Take
it's
it.
not even about making it. It's about taking it.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that I actually really like. I actually do like this trade. Otherwise, definitely as a Sixers fan as well.
I just feel like this trade, if the Blazers are trading away Dame to bring Tobias in and then rolling out, like, let's just say that it happens, in the offseason, and then rolling out game one with Tobias Harris and CJ McCollum as the two best players on the team. I think that's maybe the saddest NBA story I've ever heard. Like,
it's the Tobias Harris Orlando Magic.
It's literally just like, I tell you what, it's as a brick wall, like at game 5. It's like you're just not getting any further.
I think this trade helps every team except the Blazers, actually.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. They're getting punished for trading their best player ever. But, depending on how high people are on Maxey, and then I'm also really high on McDaniels. So that's sort of like it's the guard and the wing plus 2 first-round picks. And then Tobias Harris is like, look, whatever you're going to end up doing with that contract, you end up doing with that contract. So, look, the Sixers got way too much here, but...
I just think if you're going to trade one of these superstar players like Damian Lillard or Bradley Beal, you want to either get back someone who's at that level, or at least the hope that you can get that level. So if you're trading Bradley Beal and you're getting Michael Porter Jr. back, it's like, okay, maybe Michael Porter Jr. is going to be Carmelo Anthony one day. Tyrese Maxey probably won't be like Mike Conley one day, and that 2024 pick isn't going to be a very premium pick unless it's from Minnesota, because as a Golden State Warriors fan, I know what it's like to control Minnesota's future. Should we move on to the next trade?
Well, speaking of trading for a close, not like for like, but a player of a similar tier, I will just post my trade in the chat now. Before I go into the details, I think Portland needs to move on from Dame, not just for their own sake and for his sake, but for the sake of the rest of the league. I think the obvious moves involve either the Sixers or Boston, but I don't think any of their front offices are going to sort of accept what Portland puts on the table. So in my trade, I have the Blazers giving up Dame, nothing more, nothing less, in exchange for Donovan Mitchell, Royce O'Neal, and 2 first-round picks from the Utah Jazz.
Yeah. No, I like it. I like it.
I like it.
I don't.
I would take one of the firsts out.
That's fair.
Take one of the first out.
You would add another first.
I mean, like you're trading Dame for a worse version of Dame.
Who might one day? Donovan Mitchell might one day. Well, he thinks he's Dwayne Wade today, so who knows what he'll be next year?
But he thinks.
The world of Donovan Mitchell.
I think I'm Dwayne Wade today.
I think that Portland are in just like a total funk with Dame. Like I think they've had him for 9 seasons, is however many seasons they've had him, and they just have. I think they've tapped out everything they can do with Dame. This gives them like a guy 5 years younger than him, certainly not as good as him, plus some assets. Where when I was looking at the Portland roster, I was like, wow, this team has no assets. There are like 2 guys on this roster that anyone would seriously want, and then a couple of pretty all right role players.
You can just say Anthony Simons. It's we all know.
And so I think this gives them like another shot with a guy 5 years younger than Dame, on a little bit less money than him. They get a couple more picks. They get Royce O'Neal, who will give them like a pretty good wing lineup coming into this system as well, between Nance Jr. and Powell. And then the Utah Jazz, they've locked themselves into another 4 years of second round exits with Rudy Gobert. Why not just try and outscore everyone by adding Dame to like your 3-point making machine? Because if you're going to play Rudy the way that they play Rudy, you're not getting past the first round without someone who can drop 40 and 10, 2 or 3 times a series.
Take that, Sean.
Are you worried about Royce O'Neal dropping off as soon as he goes to Portland as a role player?
Absolutely.
From the Jazz perspective, though, like what, I guess if you have the chance to get Dame, you get Dame. But they just signed Mike Conley to a 3-year, $75 million deal, and
he can play the 2.
Okay, he can play the 2. Someone tell Quinn Snyder.
I mean, like Donovan Mitchell's only 6'1" right now, and he's playing the 2.
Yeah, but I mean, like in terms of play style, like Mitchell is much more of a 2 than either Mike Conley or Dame, just like in terms of being a slasher and like living inside. Whereas Conley is old and Dame is obviously very 3-point oriented. I don't know. My initial reaction was like throw in another first, because these firsts are worthless. They're like 20, they're 25 or below, because Rudy's gonna roll out and be like second team All NBA in the regular season. And with Dame, like they'll be the 1 seed again, no stress. The machine will be like whizzing about. So I just feel like you come out with a dude who, and I was on the podcast like a couple of weeks ago being like, there's something about Donovan Mitchell, like I just trust him in the postseason, but he does shoot like 42% from the field. So
I don't know if that's true. I swear
he shoots 42% from the field. Or
I swear every big playoff game and every big moment he doesn't miss. Like he hits all of those.
Well, that's what I was saying.
I don't know where all these misses are coming from.
I trust him. Like there's something about him. But I think the it factor sometimes like overshadows the actual like reality of what's going on.
Just could I butt in, Dante? For the last 2 years playoffs, Donovan Mitchell has averaged 36.3 and 32.3 points per game in the playoffs in 17 games.
Yeah, so that's fucking obviously a pretty mint stat line. Counterpoint would be for him to average 36 points in the playoffs, you've got to get to the playoffs. Which I'm not 100% sure that. Like, I think Dame is like transcendent and can lift like an average roster. Whereas you put Donovan Mitchell and say, do your thing.
Next to CJ.
I'm not 100% sure that the Blazers are like even in the picture. And then if they're not in the picture, but they still got a dude who's earning 35 million, and then the only thing they picked up is picks, but that pick ends up being 27, and then they draft the next Anthony Simmons. And I don't know. Marco, I hate to say it, but I think I'm out on the trade.
That's all right. Completely fair points. I I just want to shake the league up, you know.
Yeah, no, higher ceiling for the Jazz here. Even though Donovan did average 36 and 32 in the playoffs, you would think there's a higher ceiling in the playoffs. Like, even if Rudy's just getting killed on Nick Batum isolations, maybe you can outscore him with Donovan Mitchell on the other end.
Yeah.
All right, next trade from Lucas.
Well, I went into this first with the mindset of trying to improve the Blazers and get someone next to Dame. And I thought about it. And I came to the conclusion that I would never want to have CJ McCollum on my team unless it's this trade, which is Davis Bertans, Kyle Kuzma to the Blazers, 4 pick swaps where the Wizards get the better pick and 3 unprotected first rounders. And then we take on CJ McCollum's contract as well. That's the only terms I want CJ McCollum to be in the capital. But this is my for real trade coming up. Very similar to the oh, sorry, does anyone want to chime in on that one?
There's literally fucking 7 picks in a row on the Wizards side of this trade.
If I'm the Wizards, I take that.
That is the price of CJ McCollum in my
McCollum
eyes.
is 7 first. Against Kuzma, Bertans, and 4 first. I'll take McCollum.
No chance in hell. We have to give up Kuzma in that deal.
Wait, so you're like fetishizing Spencer Dinwiddie, but you're like, I don't want anything to do with CJ McCollum. Such a
Spencer
different
Dinwiddie
player.
light.
I mean, his contract's light, yeah.
And then this is the trade I went for. I'm thinking by the All-Star break, Chicago's going to be like, wow, we really do need a best player. And we need to shake things up. Who's an unhappy superstar? Probably Damian Lillard, of course. So I've gone Lonzo, Troy Brown Jr., Patrick Williams, and then Marko Simonovic was just in there. I don't know who this person is, but just to make the money work because I was like 20K off for Damian Lillard. And after Marco's trade got flamed, I feel a little bit less good about my trade, but I like how much younger the the Blazers get with this. And then, the Bulls get a guy that Vooch, Levine, and DeRozan can come into work and be like, okay, no, this guy is definitely better than all of us.
Should the Bulls give up some picks here? Maybe the picks they got back for Markkanen, at least that one from Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm into that.
Yeah. I actually, this might be my favorite of the lot so far. Sorry, guys, but if you had the pick in there, I like this one.
Yeah, I agree. I think it hinges on Patrick Williams being good this year. Like if
Yeah.
Patrick Williams is like genuinely good and you throw in like an extra pick or two, even just like shitty protected first, I like this.
Dude, I was up later on eBay bidding on a Patrick Williams rookie card that was like $8, and I'm just like, no, you can go away if you want any more than $8. But I'm serious. You know how like if you're into
How
a
late
player,
were you up?
Oh, like 11, past bedtime still. But you know how like if you're really into a player, the whole fucking sports card madness, you just get their rookie card because that's the card that's going to grow with them. So imagine getting like a Kawhi Leonard rookie card where no one knew he was going to be good. Now it's worth plenty of money. I'm that high on Patrick Williams, and it's so unfounded. I just love how low he is at the moment.
Wait, but you wouldn't even spend $8 on it.
$8.
Nah.
Dude, there is legit a Seinfeld reference for this moment when that woman tries to rob George Costanza
And then she ties him up.
and then takes out his money and says $8. $8. That's you, one of them.
I thought you meant the woman in the pharmacy who was like, nah, that you gave me your right change and it was $8. Anyway, what were you saying, Alex?
I was gonna say the Bull. I just did the whole journey of this trade in my head, and this is how I see it going. The Bulls go from having 2.5 defenders to 0 defenders. Their defenders were Lonzo, Patrick Williams, and the half was Troy Brown. They lose all 3 of those players.
And Larry Markkinen
Lillard.
from the Markkinen trade.
Yeah, of course. And then their lineup goes Lillard, Levine, DeRozan, Black Hole, and Vucevic. Lillard leaves when his
Derek
contract's
Jones.
over. Levine signs for Clutch and leaves for the Lakers. And then the Bulls are left with no assets, and they just become Orlando with the Vucevic dragging them to the 8th seed.
Oh,
That's how I see this trade going.
It was a make Portland better trade though. So
That's true.
I guess Lucas wins.
well, yeah.
I'm
Give
not sure
Portland
Portland gets
fans
better.
hope. Yeah, give Portland fans hope because it's like, oh, Lonzo Ball can grow into LaMelo Ball one day.
No, but in all seriousness, I like I like the idea of Portland actually going young and a bit more rebuilding than actually just bringing in a bunch more players to, to ply the trade for them, if you will. But yeah, there needs to be some picks in there, Lucas.
Well,
There really needs to be some picks.
I've also had a change of heart with picks as well as Ben Simmons this week. If I was in the Pelicans position, perfect example. Well, let's not use the Pelicans because it's a bit too personal. If I was in OKC's position, I would be trying to get off those picks so quick.
Yeah, but you want to get them first,
True, but like
no. Use another example because like OKC has too many picks for their roster spots.
Boston, but after the end of Boston's, like, let's just get all the picks. It's like, okay, cool. You got 2 really good picks in Tatum and Brown, and then you've got like 6 guys that are really, really awkward to support.
What did you watch Naismith in Summer League, man?
I guarded him.
Yeah, wait, you carded him.
You guarded him.
$8.
$8. Fuck, man. As you were.
I think I'm done.
Talking about picks.
Yeah.
That wasn't the end of a sentence. That wasn't a natural conclusion to whatever
I said
you were
full stop
saying.
and everything.
But would you rather like? So what was it like? Cleveland's pick for who? What are they getting the Larry Markkinen deal? Like oh God, I really should have researched this point before I opened my mouth.
The Bulls got the picks.
The
yeah.
Bulls-
The
Bulls got
trade.
1 pick. Yeah. So like, would you rather have, let's just say 2023 Cleveland pick, top 10 protected, or Troy Brown Jr.?
Troy Brown Jr.
Yeah, really. Who's going to be
Yeah.
properly paid after this year?
Well, here's my theory about draft picks. If you have a 1 through 10, it's a good pick. But if you have a pick 11 to 60, you need to have good scouts and a team that's willing to develop players. And Portland is going to have this pick.
Yeah.
Yeah, or even if they don't, the Bulls will, and that's not any better.
Can I just add? It was actually the Blazers protected 2022 first round pick that ended up with the Bulls.
Okay.
So
Well,
even
then
less.
Jacob Blake
valuable.
didn't get murdered.
All right, we'll move on to my trade, and I'll just say that this wasn't actually a trade Dame pod. It was a make the Blazers better pod, and Dame's very good at basketball. So my trade here is to get the page isn't available. What do you mean?
Jeez.
Do
Who's
you want
that?
me to read it out for you? Whoa.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
So the crux of it is
It
all
says
right, no,
failed.
it just loaded. All right, it
does
says
say
failed.
failed.
I'll get to that in a second. So the Blazers end up with Rudy Gobert and Udoka Azubuike. The Jazz end up with CJ McCollum, Mason Plumlee, PJ Washington, a pick from the Blazers, and a pick from the Hornets that they got in the Devontae Graham signing. And the Hornets end up with Yusuf Nurkic and Anthony Simons. The reason it says it failed is because Mason Plumlee was recently traded, so he can't be traded again for shortly after. But as we've seen, a trend with this offseason is that a lot of teams are getting deals done and then just saying, oh, let's just spindle that into the Spencer Dinwiddie signing. Let's just spindle that into something. So I hope that by the time this podcast is out, we're close enough to free agency where Adam Silver and his grunts up at the head office will just be like, okay, that's close enough to like reasonably envision it to be bundled into another deal, or even just do it at the trade deadline. But the thing here is the Portland Trail Blazers are addicted to winning the regular season. So is Rudy Gobert. So you give Damian Lillard a all NBA type guy in Rudy Gobert who will help them win 60 games in the regular season. Not going to help the playoff hopes, but that wasn't really that's never really been a question for the Portland Trail Blazers. The Jazz get another look with CJ McCollum and just get off of Rudy and just say, all right, we've got 2 new picks. We've got PJ Washington, who looks promising and at least can play a small ball center, which is just worlds different to what they've done for the past couple of years. And say, we've got CJ as a tradable salary and we've got these picks. Maybe we can spindle that into something, or maybe we just play with those 3 guards, just like we came across that problem a couple of trades ago. And the Hornets finally get a center because apparently their answer was Mason Plumlee this year, but that's stupid. So here's Yusuf Nurkic, who's actually a good center.
So the Trailblazers downgrade from Gobert to Nurkic, I see. Something about this trade actually that I find funny is that the Jazz have plus 56.74 minutes per game coming in, and the Blazers have minus 40 minutes per game coming in.
So like a lot of that is Mason Plumlee
Yeah.
playing a lot of minutes for Detroit. And the less Mason Plumlee plays, the better.
Yeah.
But at least they've got a center-sized human there.
I like that two of these trades have ended up with Dame and Gobert on the same team, because I actually don't mind that as a duo. And I do like this trade from the Hornets side and the Blazers side. The only team I would actually, I don't think I would do this if I was the Jazz, but Hornets and Blazers definitely.
I'm hinging a lot on PJ Washington pushing the Jazz over. And do you think PJ Washington and that pick that you got for Devontae Graham is enough just to simply get Yusuf Nurkic?
That's what I was about to say. I'm not sure. I don't know how much they like Nurkic compared to Washington, although I went into last season as a Washington over Bridges guy, and now I think I'm the other way.
Yeah.
I think I'm Bridges over Washington. So they might be sitting there thinking like, well, it's one or the other. We're going to keep Bridges. Let's just flip Washington for a 6 foot. What did you say? A center-sized human. So Nurkic is good when he's healthy,
Really
and
good.
LaMelo just needs someone who's good. I don't know if it's enough value. I think it might, I think the Hornets might be giving up too much value. But you know, they're run by Michael Jordan, so he doesn't know what he's doing.
The pick that they're giving up, though, that pick from the Pelicans is a really bad first. It's heavily protected and it becomes 2 seconds immediately if it doesn't convey next year. But I don't know. Like Nurkic is really good. I'm a big Nurkic fan. I think he was one of the top 4 or 5 centers in the league 2 seasons ago. But it's literally been 24 months since he's been good. And when he's healthy, like I don't know. Broken leg, couldn't come back from it, healed and was just shit when he was on the court for half the season. It's like how long does that take you to really come back? So I don't know if I'm banking heaps on him being really good. So I think giving up getting him in, I'm not that big a fan of Washington. So I think like a backup center Washington and a shitty first to bring him in is value for him right now, because I just think it's so uncertain what his actual value is, and if it hits, he's sick, he's unreal. And you're really only giving up Washington that's like a player of value, and if I think like that's not an uncommon perspective that you outlined, unless that many people would take Bridges over Washington anyway. It's like, well, at least you get Nurkic on a cost control contract, how much you're paying him, and you don't have to think like, oh, we're going to pay PJ Washington $14 million a year in a year's time. Like you just kind of say like, all right, wash your hands. We'll find a replacement level wing to replace him.
Yeah. If PJ Washington gets Kent Bazemore's 472, I think his career goes in the same direction. Straight down.
Any less or any more, then he's fine.
Yeah.
I'd love to see how this Jazz team plays. Both, how does Plumlee fill the Gobert role in the regular season?
Does McCollum play the 4?
Yeah. And 6'4" Royce O'Neal at the 5. But then, are they actually any better in the playoffs without Gobert?
Well, I feel like with Rudy Gobert, and that's just the problem with playing a center like him, you're probably you are extremely capped in what you can do in the playoffs, because you're going to go against Kawhi and Paul George, and you're going to go against LeBron and AD, and you're going to go against Nikola Jokic and a collection of humans. But like, it's just another look. But Gobert makes up so much, and he just lets them play Bojan Bogdanovic, and like, just don't worry if he doesn't defend anyone. And yeah, Spider Mitchell isn't that good, and CJ McCollum's not that good, and Mike Conley's aging. So like, Rudy Gobert patches up so much, and Mason Plumlee probably doesn't patch up as much.
I wouldn't imagine. And then what do Portland do? Like, do they throw Gobert on the bench in the second round of the playoffs and play Covington at the 5? Like,
I mean, like, the Blazers aren't winning a title no matter what you do, where they keep Dame or trade Dame. So like this, at least you win more games before you lose. At least you're happy on the Titanic before it sinks.
Nice. This is going to be a completely random tangent, but I'm going to go on it, and I want to see if you guys can think of something. So Jokic and Nurkic were teammates, and they're now an MVP and like a starting caliber center. Is that the best tandem, like center duo before that? Dwight Howard and Marcin Gortat as the 1 and 2?
Well, is Dwight Howard now
backup.
2 NBA players?
Oh, God. All right,
Fucking Marcin Gortat does not add any value to that
I think
center
Dante.
tandem.
I think Dante will vouch for me.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
Gortat
Yeah.
was good.
Well, I'll
Was.
add two caveats. Lucas, I understand we're coming at this from different perspectives, but I've got nothing but love for Gortat. But then Aless, Gortat was fucking terrible when he was on the Magic. He was like literally, he was like not the 2K ratings. It's like an analog for performance, but he's perpetually like 58.
What?
Trey should be over 95. But I just thought I'd throw it out there. I can't think of any other like 2 centers that had relative success when they both split.
Yeah.
That's where I was going.
Mm.
Oh, there
That's a
he is.
thinker for sure.
Polish hammer.
The
Yeah.
Polish hammer, yeah.
Next trade.
I actually have a question that might also be a finisher, but I was thinking about this week or this past week, like that matters. But who had more success against the Warriors, Harden or KD?
Harden, easy. He was the only player in that run that scared the shit out of me. When we were down 3-2 in the Western Conference Finals, I was like, fuck. Because, Harden's going to kick the shit out of LeBron in the finals. Harden and CP3. And I was like, this is the Western Conference Finals are the finals. And Harden definitely. Like I was never worried about Kevin Durant beating the Warriors, even when we were down 3-1 in the semis, just because I knew that they had Steven Adams on the court, and no matter what, Steph Curry is just going to come up there and just make him move in space.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy that the only time they were on the same team, Harden was coming off the bench as well, and he's given the greatest team of all time the biggest issues.
Is that because Harden was better against the Warriors, or because Durant was paired up with Westbrook?
No, that's a question.
Well, that's cerebral.
Bloody cupcake! I'm going to wear a photographer vest to your next game, and then
It doesn't
one
mean
journalist
anything.
is going to find the connection. That was so stupid. But like, if you were beefing with your mate and your mate liked photography on the down low, would you make fun of that? Like that's not a.
Absolutely. What a lame hobby.
I feel like it's fucking Warhammer, like painting Warhammer figurines or like playing with steam engines is
Doing a podcast.
Doing a podcast is a much lamer hobby.
Standing courtside with a Zoom microphone in my hand.
Top 5 worst hobbies. Number 5.
No, it would have been funny if Westbrook rocked up to the game with like some fucking Warhammer figurines, just like some little painted orcs and elves.
He's cracking all their heads off.
He's so childish.
No, you can't be doing that shit, bro. You know how much that costs?
Dante knows how much that costs.
Yeah.
Had to buy a gift.
If the 2020-2021 season had a Marvel night, when is the Warhammer night going to happen?
Yeah, fuck that Marvel night. That was intolerable. When's the DC night?
DC won't get
in
a
the
night.
capital, baby.
DC will never get a night.
Oh.
Sorry, Leandro.
If you look for PointsBet's stock exchange listing, you'll find a bucket of jargon and doublespeak as they're considered a, quote, wagering services operator, unquote. That's a corporate stretch for the colloquial friendly brogan or, hey, look, it's Chris Bosh kind of image they're sending off with their targeted advertising. I don't know about you, but take me back to the days when former pro sports players signed brand deals with hair loss clinics or Fujitsu aircons, not, quote, wagering service providers.
If you're scrolling through your Facebook feed and you come across the two of our faces morphed into one, would that make you listen to our podcast more? I mean, if it does, let us know and we'll start doing it. But when I see a few NBA players' faces morphed into one, it doesn't make me want to pull out my wallet and donate some money to my local wagering services provider.
The worst part is we're coming to accept it. Wagering service provider ads are so ingrained in our sports, and the way sports is delivered to us, it's almost impossible to avoid. 3/4 of Australian children aged between 8 and 16 years who watch sport think that betting on sport is normal and can name more than one or more sport betting companies. When I was in school, I was struggling to remember Pokemon names, and I'd be furious if I knew that brain power was being used to put towards wagering service providers and not them.
The wagering service providers know exactly who to target. It's not okay to let them ingrain themselves in young Australians' minds. It's not okay to target people in the middle of a pandemic, and it's not okay for gambling companies to wield so much influence in the world of sports. To help kick gambling out of sport, use your voice and sign the petition at www.endgamblingads.org.au/petition.
Well, if everyone's happy, I'd like to move on to my trade, which I've just put in the chat. So I need to actually refresh myself on what it is. But I basically decided, Sean, similar to you, my thought process was we're making the Blazers better, and I don't want to trade Dame because we're fixing the Blazers. Like, it's not going to happen. And any team that is going to trade for him is going to be a good team. It's not like he's getting traded to the Pelicans and they're just going to give every single pick, or getting traded to the Thunder and they're just going to get every single pick. So if you try and take like a young players and picks package, you're just going to get fucking fleeced. So keep Dame. The trade is as follows, and I decided to retroactively include a pick. So the Blazers will trade CJ McCollum and Nas Little to Indiana in return for Karis LeVert and Jeremy Lamb. The Blazers will also send a pick in there just because I don't think, I think I'm a little bit higher on CJ in his contract than others. So send a pick in there. The reason why the Blazers would do it is because we've seen for so long what two little guards looks like, and they've been crying out for the last 10 years for a big wing creator, and Karis LeVert could be exactly that. And the reason why the Pacers would do it is because between Turner, Sabonis, Warren, and LeVert, that's like a lot of size and a lot of touches to fit in the 3 through 5 position. Like, there's really probably not enough touches to go around, especially considering that LeVert doesn't play as like a spot up guy. He needs to have the ball, which means you're taking it out of Brogdon's hands. Warren needs the ball. Sabonis needs the ball. So bringing CJ in, I think, could be like something to grease the wheels a little bit in Indiana. So I'm thrilled to the gallery. Thoughts?
I really like this. Before I will get into this, what do you guys think? And what do you think about this? Instead of Jeremy Lamb, that guy that the Bucks should have re-signed.
Who's that?
Brogdon and LeVert for McCollum and Nas Little. What do the residual pieces have to look like for that to go through? I feel like the Blazers need to give up a bit more.
Brogdon
Definitely.
and LeVert would probably put you at like 38 million. Like,
I think that's still
my
fixed.
head. And CJ, there would need to be some pieces in there because I think CJ's 31. So you would need to find some
Anthony?
filler salary. Nah, it's not enough. It probably would have to be. I'm trying to think, like Derek Jones Jr.'s salary probably would have done it, but it would have to be someone more. I think Anthony's on 4 million, so someone like slightly more. Yeah, interesting. So Brogdon to the Blazers instead of LeVert.
No, Brogdon instead of Lamb.
Brogdon instead of Lamb. Yeah, but then I mean that's rich.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
The Pacers give that up at all.
Yeah.
I think I'm like, I love LeVert. I'm very high on him, but I think, like you were saying, Dante, like the Pacers have enough going on already on the court that they can sort of afford to give up a player like him without becoming worse. And yeah, CJ, he might even fit that role a lot better. Yeah, I really like this one.
But surely CJ brings the same problems as having LeVert as a dude who's better, after like 3 dribbles and like little hezzy pull up Jimbo.
But CJ at least can play in a different way. He's got the skills where it's like he can run off screens and, be like a destitute man, Steph Curry. Whereas it's not, I mean, like LeVert is just never, ever, ever going to succeed without having the ball in his hands. And I think the thing that might swing it for at least this is what I'm telling myself, that might swing it for the Pacers to kind of like say, all right, we haven't really seen LeVert that much, but let's just like move it anyway and bring CJ in. Is like, if Warren comes back, that's literally the exact way that Warren was playing, at his peak like 2 seasons ago, obviously. So the last time we saw him on the court, he was, like a mid-range scorer, ball in his hand, mismatch attack, which is, I mean, like, tick, tick, tick for LeVert. So there's only so much you can do with that, especially when you have a highly paid point guard and arguably the second or third best passing big man in the league. So, I think something would have to give. And CJ, you could just slot him in and say, run around screens, bro, hit some threes.
Like you could really buy low on a lot of Pacers players after you were saying all that stuff about, Warren, and just all their players. I think this is awesome. I think that I was always like, oh, you need to get a wing to Portland. You need to get a wing to Portland. They brought in all these wings, but you need to bring a playmaking wing into Portland. And that's what LeVert is. So yeah, I reckon this is probably our second best after mine.
After the Wizards trade. Is LeVert's got to be a better defender than McCollum as well, correct?
Well, I mean, he's at the very least, he's bigger.
Yeah, he's 3 inches bigger. He probably has a bigger wingspan, and I'm pretty sure McCollum's not a good defender.
No, not at all. Like,
He's okay.
LeVert
Bad
is...
court sense though.
You want to elaborate on that? Is there a C word that you want to jump in?
No, remember when he stepped out of bounds in like the
Okay.
most crucial part of their season?
Uncerebral.
After Dame had 82 at that point.
And then they lost to a team without their second best player.
Speaking of having podcasts, CJ McCollum.
Yeah, speaking of having a fucking beautiful missus, CJ McCollum.
Yeah, you've got a weird thing for CJ's wife, don't you?
I know. If you're listening, come on the pod.
We need female representation.
CJ or the wife?
I don't want to say it less, but thank you. Just
I did
in the tabs.
Sorry, Sean. I did Lucas's transition where I flipped Lamb for Brogdon and tried to make it work money wise. And I think the closest thing was McCollum, Powell, Simmons, but then the Pacers are left without a point guard. So that's how the money works theoretically, and they still get their quote unquote young quote unquote asset in Simmons.
It's so weird that Norman Powell.
They would need a pick as well.
It's so weird that Norman Powell's there, and that's the problem with my trade. Bringing in, actually no, that's not a problem. That's a benefit of my trade because you would much rather CJ Dame and Norman Powell playing the two. You don't want them sitting on the wing if you have it your way, and they've just got so many shooting guard sized people who do shooting guard things. But
that's why I bring in LeVert because, like Lucas said, it's how many Mo Harkless clones do we need to see in Portland? No offense to your guy Derek Jones, but that's all that is. It's let's bring in an athletic wing.
He went to where role players go to die.
Yeah,
wait to see the resurgence.
The 3 and the 3 and the 4 spot in Portland is literally cursed. So bring in. I think this trade from a Portland perspective hinges on them being LeVert could. LeVert could be better than what he has been because then you're looking at Dame and an East All-Star level wing creator with some role players around someone who can fucking dribble the basketball and make a mid-range on the wing. If Nurk comes around, then it's in the moment I'm talking myself into this.
Ball in hand when Lillard's on the bench. I think I want LeVert more than I want McCollum. But then on the floor next to Lillard on offense, you want McCollum. But you're trying to get 48 minutes of coverage of a ball handler that is successful at the NBA level for all 5 players, not for one. I love LeVert. So good deal.
You mentioned Mo Harkless there, and I just want to mention my favorite Mo Harkless story, which is in the last game of the season in Golden State Warriors' second year of relevance. So in Mo Harkless's contract, there was some bonus where if he had shot a certain percentage, I think it was 35% from 3 throughout the whole entire season, then he would get an extra $2 million in his contract. And Draymond Green knew that heading into this final game, and it was within a couple of shots of going up or down, just above or below 35%. And at the start of the game, Draymond's he's not going to shoot it if he doesn't, because he was ahead entering the game. So Draymond's don't guard him. He wants to make his $1 million. He's not going to take the shot, and just didn't guard him for the whole entire game. And he didn't take the shot because he didn't want to take his couple of mil. And then you just got away with not guarding the dude from 3.
Nice. Chestnut
but he got a couple $1 million.
Yeah,
so
he
he's
got
the
his,
real
he got his money.
And now he plays for the Kings and people still don't guard him. So
I think it was Bill Russell who talked about the key to being a good teammate is to put yourself aside so you can win for the team. And And I'm sorry, Mo Harkless, but that's not it.
Not a lot of winning for the team going on in the 2015 Blazers.
Yeah. Did they still have LaMarcus at that point?
Probably.
Did you see the LaMarcus jersey walk past before?
Mm.
Yeah, sick, bro.
I think the listeners did though.
What?
I missed that.
What?
Did the averages go?
Jackson walked past Sean's camera before with the LaMarcus jersey on. Something that anybody who's not the five of us, i.e. the listeners, would have no idea about.
Steven
Patreon
Jackson
subscribe-
walked past in a LaMarcus Aldridge Spurs jersey.
Oh, whoa. Now the listeners are enthralled.
Patreon subscribers can see this, but not enough people on the Patreon.
Oh.
Now we got people on the Patreon.
Yeah, I actually saw this podcast that was like, let's call it the similar size as our podcasts. Yeah, they were doing Patreon, except so that their podcasts aren't free. They just do Patreon where you have to spend $1 per episode. How about that?
Damn.
It's pretty hard to say no to spending $1, but I am talking to the guy who didn't spend $8 on
On his favorite
On
basketball
Patrick
player's
Williams.
rookie card.
Yeah.
You can't.
So I can't live
Sure.
without Patrick Williams. Who wouldn't spend $8.
Just out of protest, if Sean and Dante started charging $1, I'd stop listening. I'd
Yeah,
still
but
come.
that-
I'd still come on the show, but I wouldn't.
But what a way to kneecap you. Like, obviously starting off, like, you know, you need to like make it free and accessible. So what a way to just kneecap you from day one.
This is
Yeah.
BTS on the business side of both of our podcasts. Please listen.
What would you guys like to speak about next?
Well, I had a Dame trade a couple months ago, actually. What do you guys think of the idea of Dame for AD?
No,
Nah.
that pre Westbrook is different to now.
Yeah.
Oh my god!
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
a shit show post Westbrook.
Pre
Yeah,
pre
far
pre
out.
Westbrook. Pre Westbrook is like a semi conversation, but I still think you have to keep Davis if you're Los Angeles.
Mm,
And
yeah.
now post Westbrook, you just don't even think about it.
Yeah.
Sorry, Lucas.
There you have it. Episode 119.
Well, does anyone think that, let's take our theoretical hats off and put our theorist hats on, realist hats on, if you will. Does anyone think any of these trades are actually going to happen? Like, do we think Dame is going to leave Portland this season, or do we think real help is going to come for him?
I think it's up to him, and I'm actually writing about it right now for the deep2.com, where Henry Abbott of True Hoop had it during the first row, the group stage of the Olympics, where he said, I have it on good knowledge that Damian Lillard is going to request a trade, and he reported it, and he goes, because Henry Abbott used to work for ESPN, he's been around all the circles, and he doesn't report news anymore. And he says, the fact that I'm reporting this is pretty serious because I haven't reported news in a long, long time, but I know this is serious and it's a big deal, and I got the scoop. And then Damian Lillard saw that, had like Twitter beef, it's pretty much just like, shut up, I'm the ultimate source, which is completely fair enough. And then so Henry Abbott said, well, okay, he hasn't requested a trade yet. He was getting angry on Twitter at me for that. Maybe his thing is that he got beaten to the punch and wanted to be the one to break the news that he was going to request a trade. And if so, that's a little bit petty. If you don't want to be somewhere and you want to request a trade, but you're not going to do it because you want to be on the team. And I think Larry Nance is an incredible basketball player, can guard 3 through 5 and just gives them so many different looks, especially when Nurkic gets injured and fucking Cody Zeller gets injured, the motivational speaker. But that's Larry Nance isn't the answer to all your problems in Portland. He's going to make you a nice little team that can change a couple of looks, but there's no way that throws you up into the finals contender. And Dame's just getting older. CJ's just plateauing. If I were him, I would request a trade, because the only reason you're staying is to get your jersey hung on the rafters, which it probably will anyway, even if he gets traded tomorrow. You're staying just to be like, oh, I'm the dude who stayed. And look at me, I'm just like Steph Curry. I've stayed with this one team my whole entire life. But if you don't have a ring, then pundits like us are going to look back and be like, oh, you didn't win a ring.
Yeah, I mean,
not
if the
bad.
team doesn't put anything around you, not anything, but how many shit wings have to come through? I reckon I've said this on every pod that I've ever been on. now Lucas is banging the drum for me. Why? What am I hanging around for? Same thing with LeBron in Cleveland. What am I hanging around for? You're giving me, if I'm a top 10 player in the league, you're giving me no reason to stay here.
No, I completely agree that he should request a trade, but it just, I don't know.
I think he's going to Philly, Marco. I think that's where he's going to end up.
But now that Clutch has put the pressure on Daryl Morey and says get a trade done before the start of the season, what if Damian Lillard wanted to give it half a season, just see if Larry Nance is LeBron? What if he wants to give it a bit of time? Because now Daryl Morey has this pressure where he has to get it done before the start of the year.
But what about this? I'm going to invoke the T word that the NBA doesn't want you to use, tampering. But what if, Clutch is basically like, hey, like, whoever, like Morey's like to Dame, like, we've got a deal, we can trade Simmons for you, like right now, but you would have to basically decide to like come to Philly now instead of waiting in and seeing what would happen in 4 months time. Like, yes or no, in or out. And if he says like, he has to balance that up against, like, well, what are the odds that I wait half a season and I'm like really convinced by the project in Portland versus like, a bird in the hand right now, you get traded to like a bona fide championship contender and make them better. I think that, if they could get away with that, that tampering, which, they probably could, it's the NBA, then, like, surely you do that. And I think in terms of Portland, like Simmons, Maxey, like throw in like shitty role play like a Korkmaz and then every fucking pick you can get your hands on. Like I think that's probably about as good as you're going to get. Especially because, like they're not going to trade him to a shit team. Not after everything he's done. They're not just going to send him to the middle of nowhere. They're not going to send him to OKC and like let him rot, which means your pool of teams you can deal with is going to be much more limited, which means that the potential to get, young players and an all-star and good picks is minimized. But if you could get Simmons, you can kind of tick 2 of those boxes straight away.
Yeah, that was... You get Market.
No, I was just going to say that was pretty much word for word my original trade that I did. I'm like, that's too boring. I got to do something.
I had that one as well. I did the same thought process.
It seems so obvious, and it's on Bleacher Report every other week. A couple of boxes up and down. But sorry, Lucas, you were making a point.
A couple of square question marks and square boxes. Does everyone else get those emojis? So if Clutch is like, get the deal done before the season, can't Daryl Morey just be like, nah, maybe not. I don't really like. What's the power that they have over him? Like, who cares?
They lose games because Simmons isn't playing,
and he loses all of his value if he's not playing for the first months of the season.
True.
But they've also tanked his value already by doing this. Then Sacramento says no more Tyrese Halliburton. He's off the table. It's just like, if you're saying get it done, we need to get my dude out of here, then why are you tanking his value by saying it has to get done? Because now Daryl Morey is going to be less likely to make a move. And it's like, is he going to do what James Harden did last year where like doesn't rock up to training camp, someone takes a photo of Ben Simmons at a club, he comes back probably fat, and then he just plays 9 games, looks exactly like he does because he's a good basketball player, and then just gets traded and it's just a little bit icky and it doesn't look as clean on Basketball Reference.
Unrelated, but I bet Ben Simmons has the fastest metabolism. No way that guy ever gets fat.
I was actually looking at doing Philly Blazers trades, and my trade was going to be centered around McCollum and Simmons, believe it or not. And the thing that made me not do it was I legit went, but they have Seth Curry, which that's what I think about CJ McCollum. At least Seth Curry knows his role. Like if CJ McCollum were to go to the
You're not wrong.
To the 76ers, he would think I don't know. I feel like there are other options ahead of him. And then also my other trade was going to be Tobias Harris for CJ McCollum. Why do both teams say no?
Oh, it's so gross, man.
76ers need more size.
Yeah. Horford back.
Yeah. Well, so with Damian Lillard, if you were getting offered these three trades, so you've got that Tyrese Maxey, what was it? Tyrese Maxey, Ben Simmons, and stuff, or Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. and a crap pick, or Andrew Wiggins, Kaminya, and Moses Moody. What of those 3 offers would you pick?
Can we call it Simmons and stuff, not Simmons, Maxey and stuff?
But Maxey played well at Summer League.
Yeah,
Maxey's the clutch. Maxey has to be in it because Clutch is pushing him out. So you have to name him because
which is weird.
Yeah. Denver.
Yeah,
easy.
Denver.
Not even close.
Easy.
Yeah.
I actually think
Not
Denver
even
says
close.
no in that deal.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Denver definitely says no in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, so right now, if you don't do anything, if you're Denver, your championship window starts 12 months from now and it goes for 3 years, maybe. Damian Lillard just makes it start today and it goes for 3 years, maybe.
But you lose a second player.
Yeah,
You don't have a second,
who awkwardly hasn't signed a contract yet. You can read more on that at nuglove.com.
Just to wrap up, where are Simmons and Lillard playing by the end of this season?
The end.
Yeah.
I think Simmons is playing in Portland and Lillard's playing in Philly. And barring that, Simmons, I think, is nailed on to the Timberwolves.
Yeah, I think Simmons to the Wolves.
Yeah. Fuck, that's so uninspiring. But
I'm inspired by that.
I like
Why,
it.
bro?
Yeah, I like Towns and Simmons and,
D'Angelo Russell and Joel Embiid.
What's his name in Chris Finch in Minnesota is going to be the guy that says to Simmons, look, mate, we've already got a point guard. You can play the 4.
Well, no, D'Angelo Russell's in that trade.
D'Angelo Russell doesn't have to be in that trade. You can get there by including Beasley, Edwards, and contracts. You think that have to include D'Lo?
So if you're the Timberwolves, you obviously want to trade D'Lo. You'd rather keep Edwards, but they have to trade Edwards because Towns wants Russell. So you're really stuffed out the way.
I honestly think gun to his head, and let's hope not, because he's had a rough
God, don't say it.
Gun to his head. Towns, yeah. I should have phrased it differently. If you said to him, look, mate, it's just me and you, be honest,
I'm going to shoot you in the head.
Malik Beasley's outside your car door tapping on it with a gun.
Would you be mad if we traded D'Lo in a good trade? He'd be like, fucking hell no, because he's had a front row seat for 18 months, season and a half, seeing what having D'Lo on your team looks like. And it looks great when he's playing in a different state, 3,000 kilometers away, and you get to meet up and do fun Slam magazine cover shoots together. Fuck yeah, I'd love to play with this guy. And then you actually get there and it's oh, he's not that good. So I think that Towns would be happy if they included Russell. It's just then Russell doesn't strike me as a player who Daryl Morey is we'll take him on.
I love the relationships between Simmons, Russell, and Cat. You obviously have D'Lo and Cat, who did the Slam cover. D'Lo and Simmons.
You're missing something.
Yeah, no, but if they would end up on the Wolves, D'Lo and Simmons both went to Montverde and they played together in high school. And then Simmons and Cat had that Twitch stream where Simmons is like, "Oh, bro, you got plenty of time." We gotta change Simmons' voice.
Talking about the Hawks as well. And the Hawks made the fucking conference finals.
I actually like them as a trio as well. Especially, I actually love D'Angelo Russell off the bench, and I don't know if he loves that, but I think he could be the greatest six man of all time. It could be him and Manu, the lefties, the 6'5" lefties. Wow. They're exactly the same.
Well, actually, Manu's got a tattoo right here of a digital clock that says now because his time is now. Got it in Argentina.
Hour past N.
Sure, I've never looked at it like that. Marco, where are either of these two players going to finish the season?
Yeah, I think it's Simmons in Portland and Dame in Philly, or I'd kind of love to see Dame in Boston and Philly. Philly in OKC, and then Simmons at the Wolves or OKC. But the Portland Philly swap seems like the most likely at the moment, for all those reasons you outlined. I think everyone in this situation has got themselves in a bit of a pickle. Simmons, Rich Paul, Dame, and Morey. I don't think any of them are happy with this situation or how it's going to end up.
Yeah. Well,
if you were OKC, just because you mentioned it, it's just a thought. Would you trade SGA, which there have been rumors that they want to get SGA out because he doesn't fit the timeline. Just want to cash in and like, rebuild around their future draft picks and Kenrich Williams.
And Josh
Would-
Giddey.
Would you trade SGA for Simmons and 2 firsts? And if you were Philly, would you just be like, all right, let's give up assets and Simmons and let's bring SGA in?
Yeah.
And then OKC would be like, we'll bring in Simmons, get the first, and then we'll flip Simmons in a year.
Yeah. Fuck me. That's awesome.
I do that if I'm Philly, and I think if that's OKC's mindset that SGA isn't going to be the centerpiece of the contending team, then yes, 100%. That would be great.
Yeah, that's only if he's not the centerpiece of your future. But at this, I just can't believe that they don't want to keep him.
Oh, but they probably do.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're just doing their due diligence.
Due diligence. To answer the question of where the 2 players go, I think the most competent person in this whole situation across the 7 teams we've listed is Daryl Morey. So he's going to get Lillard.
Yeah, that's a good bedrock to come back to.
Yeah.
Golden State trading for Damian Lillard. Confirmed. You heard it here first. What a good starting block. Kuminga and Moody. Moody's like Gary Harris 2.0. Kuminga's not very good. Shot sub 40% in Summer League. I tell you what other Warrior shot sub 40% on high volume in Summer League. Lucas Petridis and Steph Curry. That was the last Warrior of that minute load to shoot less than 40%.
The Curry Petridis pick and roll was flame in that Summer League.
So you played Summer League 12 years ago and you also played Summer League this year. Jesus.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
I'm like the Leilani Mitchell of Summer League. Winning most improved 12 years apart.
You're the Jared Jack of Summer League.
Oh fuck! I love Jared Jack. Does anyone want to wrap us up?
Yeah, I've got a question. Oh, that's not what you asked.
But have you got a question, Lucas?
I've got a question. In the run sheet you've written Portland had interest in Dylan Brooks before trading for Larry Nance Jr.
Yeah, that was a report. You
That's
can
such
finish it from Shams Charania of
from
the Athletic.
Shams Charanaya. Yeah, I don't get what one thing has to do with the other. Like, surely they can play on the court at the same time.
What? No, it was because they had the asset to give up to get Dylan Brooks. It was it was the matching salary of
Right.
DJJ and the pick. But fuck, they don't need another shooting guard size person. And I don't like the Dylan Brooks. You guys do, but Dill Pickle just doesn't do it for me.
Not compared to Nance.
Oh no.
I think Brooks is good or fine, if anything.
Larry Nance is the best role player in the league.
Yeah, you bring in Nance, and whether or not you get significantly better, you get better. I'm not convinced you actually get better when you bring in Brooks.
Actually, this is a great test case to see if Portland does kill role players because you've got him.
I was going to say that.
Fuck, this will be fun. Well, it's
And
only
this is
50 days.
Speaking of 50, their 50th last straw. Hey, if you kill this one, you're definitely not good with role players.
And if Nance works out, I'm gonna say it's because he's the exception to the rule, and not because I'm still gonna blame Portland.
Yeah.
There's a lot of Nets love being thrown around. Like he's like the fucking platonic ideal of a role player. And I just want to maybe pump the brakes on that. Like if Nance goes to Portland and fails, yes, it could be because obviously, statistically speaking, it's been proven that that's where role players go to die, especially 3 or 4 size role players. But it could also be that Nance just isn't that good and he goes and B's not that good. And then people are like, damn, he wasn't that good. And everyone's like, must be Portland, but it was actually just that he wasn't that good the whole time.
Okay, Dante, Larry Nance Jr. and Mikal Bridges are the 2 best role players in the league. Are you happy now?
McCollum Bridges isn't a role player, bro.
Did you see him at the start of the year? No, but Larry Nance
Summer League, Lucas
bumped into him. Like Toby Green bumped into the ref. 3 weeks. Good. Larry Nance.
Should have got 6.
Cheeky 36% from 3 last year. Can play small ball 5, can guard 3s. He would have been traded last year, but then he got injured, didn't play the rest of the year.
Better Larry? Larry or Markkinen?
Larry Legend! He is everything I wanted Derrick Jones Jr. to be.
Who?
Larry Nance.
I feel like they're a bit different.
Nah. Like
Larry Nance looks like he has breakfast.
Do
What does that
you
even mean?
do you guys have breakfast? Because I'm surprised at how many people don't.
Big
Lucas
breakfast
doesn't.
man.
I know that for a
Big
fact.
breakfast, man.
I
Most
love,
important meal.
love breakfast.
I do 3 poos before 9 a.m. and I don't eat until 11. You figure that out.
You
Nobody
do the
can.
math. LS, you're not a breakfast dude.
Nah, I just eat a lot of calories much later in the day. I just like consume too much really in a really short time frame.
Have you guys heard of intermittent fasting?
Funnily enough, not what I was going for, but technically what I'm doing.
Higher 3-point percentage. Larry Nance or Donovan Mitchell last year?
It's
Larry Nance.
Larry Legend.
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, it's Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah.
38.6% from
Fair enough.
three.
Trick
Yeah.
question.
Catfisher, bro. Fucking
Yeah.
hell.
8.6% from 3 on Lonzo volume.
On Lonzo Volume. We love that.
I know we don't need to talk about the Warriors anymore, but Nance on the Warriors
please.
would have been
Oof.
so good. Oh, that would have been
Well,
so
Lance was
good.
Lance was all over the Lance. Nah, Nance was all over the Warriors for like a split second when KD tried to contest his dunk.
Man.
Oh no.
Scared, son.
Has this podcast reached its natural conclusion? Find out next week on the Deep. I've been Sean Carroll, your host. Joining me as always is the one and only Dante Boff, Mr. Boffman Man, as well as Mark O'Holden, Jeffrey, Lucas Petridis, and Alessio Conte. See you, lads.
Bye.
Thanks for the fun times.
I'm cutting that.
Even though they weren't so